thinking about a one-off conversion. That's not what they're thinking about here. This is a far longer play. If they could be involved in volunteering in some way, they'd stick around. Because if a newcomer comes, would at least 2 people say hello to them? It's no longer the saber-toothed tiger, it's the bailiff. Come to collect the debt.
On this week's episode of The Engaging Marketeer, it's going to get very, very meta because I am speaking with Scott Gould, who is a keynote speaker and engagement consultant. So I am going to be talking to Scott about engagement, and the word engage is going to come up quite a lot. What does engagement mean to Scott? How can businesses use engagement within their business to better retain and attract and convert more of their clients? So let's see how many times the word engage is used in the next hour. You describe yourself as an engagement consultant. What exactly does engagement mean to you?
It's a great question.
Oh, thanks, mate. I'm off to a winner. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, you run Engage Web, right?
That's right.
Loads of people work in engagement. Often people can't explain it. I like to simply say engagement is when you and me becomes we. Put it another way.
I like that.
Yeah. It's put another way. It's when we're together. When we're you and me, and when we are you and me, we're separate. When we are together, we are engaged. And nothing wrong with being separate or unengaged, because we're unengaged from the majority of things in the world. But where we need to be a we, or where there's leverage and benefit to being a we, then we should be together. And so then that would lead to the next question: why bother with engagement? Because quite simply, we're better together. Like, we recognize as a species, we just work better together. The clothes on my back, the coffee I made this morning, the technology we're using to record this, none of this you and I made. We're all standing on the backs of each other. And so engagement is what drives our species forward.
And I've noticed when we created this company, a big, long session we had to work on the name of Engage Web. And there were loads of words that we came up with in this session where we were coming up with it. But engage seemed to be the one for me, because if you're going onto somebody's website and it doesn't engage you, you're not going to buy from it. It's not going to convert. And since we called it Engage Web, I've seen a lot of businesses using the word engage. Maybe not just in their name, in their marketing. Engage seems to be a big thing in the last 15, 20 years. How important do you think it is for businesses to do it? And I almost want to wait to ask my second question, but I'm going to throw it in anyway. How many do you think are using it cynically because they just want to actually sell and they're kind of faking engagement?
I mean, I got no bones with someone who's faking engagement, and nor am I a grammar Nazi who requires that people use my correct language. I think it's useful to use the correct language when we are trying to understand what we're doing, when we're trying to strategize, when we are looking at things academically. But day to day, heck, call it whatever you want and do whatever you want, right? As long as it works and as long as it's ethical, and I think we're all kind of good. But to your point specifically, it's important for us to engage because engagement creates resilience, and just in terms of us as business owners. The more that we engage with our clients, the more resilient those relationships are going to be. The less that we engage, the less resilient they might be. So there's something there around, engagement kind of denotes a sense of, well, it's like a chain. It's strong. The various links in the chain are held well together as opposed to being loose. We can also think of, as you've said, how important it is for us to help our clients engage their customers. So you're Engage Web, and you recognize the importance of a website needing to engage the visitor. So we've got something there around hold their attention. We've got something, I presume, around going from holding their attention to actually getting action. Because you can have a very well attention grabbing thing and then not have any action. Well, that's going to be a negative. And then ultimately that action is turned into some sense of affection, some sense of ongoing relationship, bond, friendliness, loyalty, brand fandom, whatever it might be, something that says, I like you and I want to buy from you again. I want to stay involved. And it turns out it's the same process for how we engage with anything, right? Is it gets our attention. And that's kind of engagement type 1. We have action, that would be like engagement type 2. And then finally, we have affection. We have a sense of bonding, and that would be kind of the third type of engagement.
Yeah.
And there's the whole package right there.
The sort of way it's described in our industry, and I didn't coin this, so I'm not going to take credit for this, would be attract, engage, convert, retain. So most people in digital marketing understand the attract concept, that you've got to get people to your website for it to work. That's been pretty understood for a long time. If you don't get people there, it's not going to work. If there's no eyeballs on it, no visitors, it's never going to work. The engage is something that many people don't get. They just think getting people to the website is enough to make it work. And then, as you said, the actual conversion, the call to action, the convert, that's pretty critical as well. A lot of people miss that. And then there's the retain afterwards. As you say, once you've got a client, what do you do with them? How do you make sure they come back to you? How do you make sure they stay? Because there's loads of stats thrown around that it's 3 times or 4 times or 5 times more expensive to get a new client than it is to retain an existing client. How does that fit in with what you've just said there from your perspective?
Engagement is like this massive topic, and we can think of engagement broadly as kind of being employee engagement. So how do we engage those inside our organizations? Those listening today may not realize that there are like loads of books and courses and programs and research around how do we engage internally. Then we've got customer engagement, which would be how do we engage the customer? And as you've described there, part of it is around how do we go from just getting their attention to getting action. It seems to be a link in the chain. But a lot of people who, when they talk about customer engagement, are not even thinking about the conversion. They're thinking about the long-term ongoing relationship. So if we think about, these companies like Disney or Apple or Google, they have such a massive portfolio. Their job is just to engage you in the suite of products that they serve and to keep on engaging you in their products and services over time. So their idea of engagement is going to be different again. They're not thinking about a one-off conversion. That's not what they're thinking about here. This is a far longer play. And then we've also got, community engagement, which is where I came from. I used to be a church minister. So my thing was, how do I get people to be engaged in a community? How do we create a space where people contribute towards each other's lives and so forth? So the definitions of engagement are like massive and varying, and we can think about this whole chain and so forth. I always find it useful to come back to how do humans relate to ideas, things, or each other, and then any form of engagement is just scaling that to be bigger in volume or size or whatever it might be. But ultimately, it's how does a human build a relationship with a thing or a person or an idea.
It's interesting there what you mentioned about being a church minister, because I would say that's critical that you engage people there, because it's vital for churches. They bring people in and the people come back. And if they're not engaged, then quite presumably they would go away, and churches, some don't survive as a result of that.
Yeah, I mean, you got the whole suite going on there, right? Churches need to engage people in the existence of the church, which would be to get their attention, which would be their promotion or their marketing, whatever it might be. For a church, that's going to be done very relationally, although there might be adverts that they run and so forth. For a brand, it's going to be a different thing again. But there's this first part of engagement, which is how do I get them to the door? And then we've got the engagement as in how do people actually be involved a little bit more? Yeah, I definitely found that if people came to our church, if they could be involved in volunteering in some way, they'd stick around. So even if they were like helping out with laying out the chairs or teas and coffees or whatever it might be, or greeting visitors, that the moment they became involved, their involvement created far greater engagement. And I also figured out, I had one request to all my congregation, which is if a newcomer comes, would at least 2 people say hello to them? Because then it meant that if anyone was new, came along, at least 2 people would say hi. We're not going over the top with saying hello, but we're also not completely ignoring them, because many people, they'd go to a church and no one would ever say hello to them ever because they're too embarrassed. So either, it's too much or it's too little. I just said, can 2 people say hello to them? And we had this really great rate of retention. Like people came and they would just generally come back because we very quickly made friends with them. And my goal, and I was a bit of a renegade, I think. But my goal wasn't to convert them to a religion. My goal was to have a space for those people, knowing that community spaces, just seem to be declining. My goal was just how can we be a space of care to people, and people generally like to engage with that. But we still had to make sure that we got to know them. So this is the stuff that I now train organizations in, is greeting people. Like I work with teams, and they'll be like, no one's engaging in my meeting. I'm like, well, do you greet them at the beginning by name? And generally they don't. They're too busy to greet people by their name. Little things like this make a massive difference. And we see the way that this is mirrored in marketing online, because we know that when your name is mentioned, it stops you in your tracks. It feels more personal. You can go over the top, but you can also massively underplay it. So there's something around the kind of the right level of engagement, not too much, not too little, the Goldilocks effect, whatever we want to call it. Really simple stuff. I mean, just taking it a bit further, even like we know that faces on a website help the website convert more.
Yeah.
Because again, we have to recognize we're running 10,000-year-old, we're running 100,000-year-old brain software with the latest hardware, but our software is ancient. So things like saying someone's name, shaking their hand, greeting them, looking at people in the eyes, or digital versions of that are what we as humans like. Really, really simple.
I love that analogy. I've never heard that before, the 100,000-year-old brain software. But of course, it makes perfect sense. It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, even our hardware is 100,000 years old. It's the environment that we're in. It's the ecosystem. Psychologists, understand that we live in a society that we've not evolved for. But one of the ways that I train people is like we play a game called 10,000 BC. We take any challenge that you're facing, strip it back. What does it look like 10,000 years ago? Because there was a film called 10,000 BC, so I show the poster, and it's got like a big saber-toothed tiger, whatever. And I'm like, right, strip it back. And people begin to talk about tribes, danger, food, procurement of resources, safety. And you strip it back to what we as humans are. We are still living with those core basic things. It's just that it's no longer the saber-toothed tiger, it's the bailiff come to collect the debt.
Yeah.
But it's the same mechanism. So we can use that to figure out how people are going to engage with a website. Like there's plenty of research, a great book called The Media Equation. It's 30 years old, but still not understood, by Reeves and Nass. And they say that people engage with media naturally and socially. In other words, people expect a computer to work something like a human. I'm not saying that it should have a smiley face, although actually we recognize that pictures on a website do convert better.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we go crazy on skeuomorphism, but there is something around we expect things to work in some similar ways. So they did this great study where they found that they called it the man who lied to his laptop. They found that someone would be disparaging about their laptop if it was in a different room, but if it was in front of them, they'd speak more nicely about the laptop. Which is a massively social human thing to do.
Yeah.
Because we imbibe it with life, because digital devices, they are, here's my laptop. It's like even my phone, right? When this is in the other room and you can't get it, people's cortisol levels go up. They become more stressed, even though we know rationally it doesn't make sense. Subconsciously, we love these things. We treat them as humans. We treat them as people in our lives. Flipping heck, it's just the way it goes.
It's like when I go with my girlfriend and her son, and he goes swimming, and we have to go in and into the swimming pool and wait. We just sat on the side, but you're not allowed to get your phone out in the swimming pool, because it's not, just in case you're taking photos of people, it's totally banned. And you're sat there going, I can't look at my phone, and I really want to look at my phone. And it doesn't make sense, because, it's only 40 minutes. But I've got that burning desire to get my phone out, just to see if I've had a WhatsApp message, or just to see if I had a notification.
That's addiction and dopamine and all of that stuff. But that's part of it. And of course, this device is filled with faces. All those notifications are going to be showing you faces.
Yeah.
They're also going to be showing you micro animations. Do you remember when phones were really basic, and then they began to adopt all these micro animations? The reason why micro animations work in apps and on websites is because movement to our 10,000 or 100,000 or million-year-old brain says that thing must be alive. So when something moves a little bit, you go, oh, that must be life, which is why a TV with the volume off can't remain unwatched, because your brain just naturally gets drawn to movement and also to the narrative, the story that's going on. So if you want to get someone's attention, you just create a little bit of movement, and immediately we look at it. It gets attention. It might not get action, but it does get attention.
Which is why on social media videos, a lot of influencers, I can't even say the word, a lot of influencers and salespeople and people who are marketing and really good at it, right at the start of the video, they'll do sort of a pattern interrupt, which will create movement on the screen that you're not expecting, so that it drags your attention to it. Whereas if you've just got someone sat there talking, you'll scroll past it.
Yeah. They constantly do it. They show their face. They zoom in, zoom out. They chop in, chop out, which again is a pattern interrupt, as you've said. I like to call it puncture the pattern. There's a pattern, we've got to puncture the pattern. But then also they will use things where they completely follow the pattern, because you just gone into auto mode. So where you don't want to puncture the pattern is subtitles. We completely just follow the pattern. We just completely get it. We just read. We naturally look at the subtitle words, even when we don't want to. So you stick words on the video, people immediately look at those words. It's fascinating. Yeah, so much of this stuff is so basic. Like there's this thing called the Doherty threshold. 300 milliseconds is the time that we expect something that we interact with to respond to us on a screen. And that's the same amount of time that we expect that it takes us to react in human terms to things. If a website is slower than the Doherty threshold, or if a Zoom call is slower, people begin to put into you negative intent. They assume that you're being rude, you don't care, you're not very competent. Research demonstrates if you keep on having a lag on your Zoom call, people assume that you have lower IQ.
Really?
Yeah, and part of it is because when we respond slowly to things, if I'm talking to you and you respond slowly to me, I'll think, do you not understand me, or are you just being rude? We apply the same rule socially to media. Hence, when something begins to go slow, we think it's rude. Hence, devices that begin to go slow, we begin to view them as aged members of society. And we begin to think, right, let's time to recycle them.
Even when it's been proven that Apple has admitted they did deliberately slow down phones to make you buy new ones.
Of course they did. Yeah. So slowing down something, it's you go, well, why can't I handle it? Because literally our brains, when you go slow, we think you're being rude, or we think you're being incompetent. So websites need to be fast because it demonstrates competence and care, which is really interesting. Just a thing that's going on immediately. Hence, all those micro animations need to be speedy. It's fascinating. Again, absolutely fascinating that this stuff happens the way it does.
I love what you said as well when you were talking about the church, and you mentioned how you get people more likely to stay if you give them a role, give them something to do, get them engaged with it. I'm in a networking group, I don't know if you've heard of it, called BNI, where we try to get people in the group to do things, to become a visitor host or to help set the room up, and it gets them more involved with it. And it's the same with businesses, which is probably what you help people with, that if you've got employees in your business and they just turn up, do their job, and then they leave, they're not engaged. But if you empower them to take action, to become responsible for certain parts of the business, they're going to be more engaged. They're going to feel more ownership within it, and they're going to stay longer if they do that. So it's about empowering people and giving them responsibility.
Ownership's the word. You have ownership. You have skin in the game. A little bit of this actually is going to reflect on you. You care about it. There's a concept known as the IKEA effect. Subconsciously, people value furniture they've made more than furniture they've bought but didn't make. Again, it's subconscious. So rationally, I go, well, that's BS. But subconsciously, something that you've actually put together with your own hands because you've put effort in and you've customized it, you value more. So one of the real easy ways to engage someone in an initiative in your company is involve them as opposed to tell them. Now, obviously, this can be done badly, but again, there's a good median where we can find of involvement. Any parent knows this. You turn something into a game with your kids, you give them a role, and all of a sudden they're loving it, right? But we can also do this with customers. We can even do this on a website. So one of the techniques that we understand that you use for onboarding with an app is you get people to customize the app slightly to themselves. Not so much that it creates friction, but just a little bit of customization. And now I've got skin in the game with this app. I'm less likely to delete it. Obviously, we've got to get the right amount, not too little, not too much. Even the act of visiting a website, even if there can be some subtle customization that goes on, in such as filling in preferences, getting it to be just the way I like it, whatever it might be, little things like that. Even like personality tests, quickly diagnose. If you land on a website, there's a great thing called Right Message, rightmessage.net, I think, by a guy called Brennan Dunn. And what it does is it customizes a website to the person who's visiting it, which is really smart and kind of obvious. So let's say you're selling websites, and someone comes to your website and somehow you're able to pick up the signals that you know that they're into farming. You might put your farming case studies at the top of the page, and someone else who visits and it's that, they're into sports, you put the sport case studies at the top of the page, or whatever it might be. But one of the things that they do is they have a little survey that comes up. If it doesn't know who you are, it pops up a little survey saying, "Oh, delighted to meet you. Tell us a bit about yourself." People love it. Now, what's really good about Right Message is the survey is a pop-up in the bottom right-hand or left-hand corner. It's not a full screen, I can't do anything. So it's not an annoying cookie consent thing. It's this little thing, and it's done in a way that feels conversational. And again, this mirrors human behavior. If I come up to you in the street and I get right in your face, you cannot walk past me unless you answer these questions. I'm like, get out of my way, you're irritating me. But just to the side, hey, I'd love to hear a bit about you. Oh, now that's the right amount. So again, a lot of these things, it's not too little, not too much. It's the Goldilocks. It's the nice middle ground.
It's funny you should mention that. We've done stuff like that because one of our web designers was investigating this about 2 years ago now, and it was specifically with businesses that have a very different kind of client. For example, an electrician might have residential clients, but they might also have commercial clients. And there's always that question of, where do I pitch my website? I don't want to put the residential clients off by making them think I'm too expensive or they're too small for me, but I don't want to put the commercial clients off by making them think that I just do stuff in people's homes. So the website was dynamically built to change the content based on what somebody had searched on or where they had come from. So if they're looking for, let's say, residential rewire, they come into a page on residential rewire. They then go to the homepage. The homepage knows where they've come from, changes the content so that it's predominantly about residential stuff, so that they're not put off by it. So it doesn't mean two different websites. It doesn't mean two different pages. It's just dynamic based on what the user is looking for. And the user has no idea that's happened.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, yeah. It's fantastic, and it's kind of obvious. 2008, Seth Godin wrote the book Permission Marketing, which it's funny that such a simple idea is still hard. And he was saying, look, the idea here is someone gives you their permission that you might market to them in a timely, relevant manner. And he's like, and once they've given you some information about yourself, then customize the website. So if someone who visits the first time, they might get something a little bit different to someone who visits later. This was back when the mechanism for this was cookies and so forth. We have now so much to do, and yet still so little personalization happens. It's a shame we miss out, but we do this as humans. You know, you meet someone and they're evidently a child. Evidently, you talk to them in a younger manner. Someone appears to be more important. You might adapt your register accordingly. And this isn't actually lying. It's emphasizing the part of me that's relevant for this moment, not denying the other parts. I'm just putting forward the part that's relevant. Well, our communications should be the same. And so there's an art then. How do we design communications to be adaptive? And I like to use the analogy of an egg. If you crack an egg, if you crack a dozen eggs, they're always going to have roughly the same size yolk. But it's the egg white, the albumin, that changes or adapts, and you can customize it to how you like your eggs, whatever it might be. But the yolk is always the same. So it's this idea of we want a consistent core. This is our core thing, but the outer can adapt. So you want your website to be able to adapt. Yeah, definitely. You want to be able to create campaigns that adapt. Well, this is what we do with A/B testing. consistent core, and then we're just adapting. Is it A or B? We're just seeing, we're adjusting, right? This is what we do when we run campaigns, consistent core, but we're adjusting the message to see how it might suit. I think really simple concept, but definitely a very human thing to do.
It's a bit frustrating more people don't do it, to be honest, because this kind of technology has existed for 25 years. Because when I was building websites in late 90s, early 2000s, I had functions on them where you could choose the theme and the color of the website yourself with the drop down based on what your preferences were, what you liked. And as you said, it was cookie based, so it remembered. You go back to the website, it puts the same cookie on it. And when I worked at Game in 2000, 2002, they had newsletters that were sent out. And there's no point sending out stuff about Xbox if you're a PlayStation player. So you would be able to log in, subscribe to the newsletter, and tick what consoles you have, what type of games you were into. And then the newsletter was written in a big content management system, and it went out with different bits depending on what you'd actually selected. So if you're an Xbox player that's into RPGs, you get that content in the newsletter. There's no point sending you something about FIFA on the PlayStation because it wasn't relevant. All that functionality existed back then, but a lot of people aren't using it now. They're just shouting out the same message to everybody, and, well, to bring it back to it, they're not doing the engagement.
Yeah, you're right. They're not engaging. And so what does that tell us about engagement? They're not seeking the we. They're going me, and I hope you like it too. And sometimes you strike, it lands and you get a we. But the better way for me to get a we is for me to go, well, hang on, let me figure out what you like, and let's find where we have common ground, which we would call product market fit. If we were in SaaS, right? How do I find the thing that I can supply that you want, and it's hand in glove? Recognizing I've got a lot of different gloves for a lot of different people with size hands, but I can adapt my message to fit all of them. Yeah, you're right. It's work, isn't it? It's work, it's effort, it takes a bit of time. I think also this is when you're well positioned as Engage Web. It takes, I think, an external company to help people with engagement because we can't see the wood for the trees.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, that saying you can't read the label from inside the bottle is perhaps, flawed, but it makes sense. You need someone else who doesn't have the cognitive miasma, which, and you can't, people go, oh, but we could do it. But really, no, like all of us are better at observing others than we are at observing ourselves. It's called the Solomon paradox.
Right.
Which is King Solomon was really wise on others' affairs, but really bad at managing his own. So he was known as the wisest king, and yet he made the worst personal decisions possible, as it seems. And again, that's because when we're so involved, we are over-involved, and we're so IKEA affected that we didn't have all these biases. Whereas someone external doesn't. Hence, you definitely want to work with an external CRM person. Definitely want to work with an external agency. They're going to see things you just do not see anymore because your brain has trained itself to not see them because that's the efficient thing.
Too close to it.
Yeah, and the biases that kick in. You want both. I'm not saying now you want to be completely outsourced. You want a nice mix of the two working together. And then the outside just keeps you fresh. And then internally you build up your capabilities and so forth. Yeah.
That's why even Richard Branson has a business coach.
Oh, that's why any professional sports person has a coach.
Yeah.
Let's not get us started on that, isn't it? It's so much of our work in businesses, we just have this arrogance of we can do it ourselves. And yet, if my plumbing goes, well, actually, I do my own plumbing.
Bad example.
Because bad example. But come on, let's get the specialist in. Yeah.
And I do come across a lot of people that try and do it themselves. Whatever it is, marketing, web design, content, they try and do it themselves because they know best. They know their industry best, or they think they do. But what I tend to find is that most people, particularly when it's a very niche specialist industry, they want to do it themselves because they know it best. They only know it from inside. They don't know what their audience is looking for, what their clients are looking for, what their target client is looking for. So you'll see that a lot with websites such as IT websites. They'll use terminology that their clients don't understand.
Yeah.
I was looking at one yesterday, which was a removal website. It was about heavy lifting, very heavy items down blocks of stairs, and it kept using this term, RAMS, R-A-M-S, all over the website. And I'm looking at it and think, what the hell does that mean? At no point have they explained that. In their industry, that means something. So they get it. Their target audience is someone who wants to move something. I don't understand heavy moving of machinery. I just have something that wants to be moved. So why are they prattling on about RAMs when nobody's going to understand what it actually means?
Yeah. The curse of knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it's like to not know this. A friend of mine, he did teacher training, and he said they taught them to count with letters.
All right.
A add A is B. All right. What's B plus H?
12?
J.
Oh, J, right.
J, yeah. So, but that can disconnect there.
I'm with you. I'm getting your formula now. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So his whole thing was like, we are so used to counting with numbers. The way to remind ourselves what it's like to learn numbers and how hard it is for kids is add letters. And you suddenly go, oh, flip. In the same way, yeah, we are so in it that we forget what it's like to not do it. Hence, you want the outside. I think the nice mix is going to be someone on the outside helping you build internal capability and keeping you fresh, and you retain both. Again, nice middle ground, nice medium of both elements coming together. Yeah, that's what I'd like.
It's something else you mentioned as well about the church, which again I wanted to draw back to because I think that's really important.
Sure. Yeah.
When you said when you get new people in, you make sure that at least 2 people say hello to them, and you bring that into business as well as greeting people. Again, that's something that we try to do within our networking group, because there's nothing worse than visiting somewhere for the first time. You don't know anybody, and nobody speaks to you, because you come away then thinking that's really cliquey, that it's very impenetrable. I didn't enjoy the experience. I don't want to go back. Yet there are so often I see it where you'll go somewhere and people will just ignore you. They'll stand in their little groups because they all know each other and they'll talk to each other. Somebody new they'll completely ignore. And I for the life of me, don't understand why businesses don't get a hold of that and why networking groups don't get a hold of it.
Well, and often people do it because they don't want to overload you. But in not wanting to overload you, we completely go under.
Yeah.
So I always liked 2 because I like, just from an engagement perspective, 3 is a great number. If I meet you at a networking thing and I come over and say hello to you, you and I have a one-on-one conversation, I have to be completely focused on what you're saying. You have to be completely focused on what I'm saying. You add in a third person, immediately I'm able to be 50% less focused because we've now got three ways of conversation. I can relax a little bit. Someone else can pick up the slack in the conversation and so forth. It also means that I'm twice as likely to find something in common because there's 2 of you, not just one. So I really like the idea of a three-way conversation. It just takes the pressure off. While I'm speaking, 2 are listening. So it's a little bit more relaxed. 2 can respond rather than 1. So in the same way, yeah, if we're talking about networking, a 3-way thing is good. I advocate in organizations, one-to-ones are good, but and you should have one-to-ones certainly, but actually 1-to-2s, little three groups. You may know at Oxbridge, Cambridge and Oxford, the primary way they teach you tutorials. The teacher, the professor with a group of 2 or 3 students. That small, intimate group, but it's more leverage than just one because we learn socially. We learn by connecting horizontally, not just upwards. So the more that I'm able to have people who are peers that I'm able to talk with, the more I can internalize this and learn this. One of the things that I do is I'm often, when I'm working with teams, is I'm looking for the way that people connect to each other, not to me, to each other. What do they say to each other? And I'm listening in the breaks. What are they saying to each other? Because that's the gold. What they say to me is going to be filtered. In the same way, it's actually then that mechanism works really well on a website. If you go onto someone's website and they tell you what other customers have said. I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
When we go to see films, they'll have the reviews. So this is the concept of social proof. Again, it's the recognition that we as humans, we're not solitary. We like there to be a few of us. Two's company, three's a crowd. Actually, three is a great number. Three's company.
Yeah.
Three's company, four's company. Two is a date.
Yeah.
And actually, maybe I just need to soften it from being a date.
Yeah. No, I get that. When I'm in a group of three, I'm usually the quietest, if you can believe such a thing, because I will relax. I will think, right, other people. I'm just going to listen now, and if I hear something I need to jump in on or suggest, then I will. But I'll let you guys do the talking. So I do much prefer that.
Yeah. Well, like even now on this podcast episode, if there was a third person, I'd be listening to what you say, what they say, and I'm a little bit like, I don't feel the pressure to speak up. But then when I have something interesting, I'm vibing off of what you've been saying to each other. Whereas this right now is a bit more intense, isn't it? There's a greater weight on me and you to
it's a challenge.
Come up with great stuff. Yeah.
Do you know this is something like 218th podcast, I think it
Quite
is.
Impressive.
And in terms of they're not all interviews, so some are solo podcasts, but it's probably about 150 interviews.
Yeah.
Maybe more. And I do find them very tiring.
Yeah.
This is feeling like therapy now, like I'm confessing to you. I do find them very tiring because I have to really concentrate on what the other person's saying. I have to listen.
Yeah.
I have to, if I've got a question that comes up from what you're saying, I have to think about it. And I'm not making notes. I tell people I don't have any questions in front of me. I genuinely don't. I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm remembering it and I'm coming back with a question based on something you've said. So I really have to focus. And when the podcast episode is finished, I am drained.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And you would be less drained if it was a small group.
Yep.
Just because of the dispersal of the need for you to handle it all. Again, which is a thing around humans, is we find comfort in that small group number. We're able to rest. Each person doesn't need to contribute as much for it to be sustained. We rely more on synergy engagement. You and me, a bunch of you and me is create a really nice we. But then, of course, it gets too big at the other end. So there's just a nice happy medium. I always like 3 to 5. 3 to 5 for a group for me is lovely.
Yeah. I've done a couple of podcasts and I think it is 2 podcasts where there've been 2 guests at the same time. And they have been much easier. Much easier.
Yeah. Or you get that thing of there's a co-host.
I've
so
had
there's 2 hosts,
I've had that
and
once,
then they get the person on, and I mean, obviously some of it might be harder because of the individuals, but yeah, it's interesting that you would reflect on that. And again, I think that how do we use that same thing for our marketing? Well, certainly when it comes to LinkedIn, let's say, mentioning other people makes it less me talking to you. It's more there's a we.
Yeah,
there's a few of us here. If you were to invite someone to BNI, don't come along to BNI, it's me, Darren. There's a group of us. A group denotes safety. So one of the things around how do I get someone engaged is you and me becoming a we is quite intense, but you lot and me coming together is a little bit less intense. So it's like, let's go from the singular to the plural. So we and a me is even easier, right? So there's kind of a sense there of like safety in numbers and stuff. Hence, when someone goes on your website, the ability for them to recognize this is what others have said, this is what others have bought. All of these things are good mechanisms. McDonald's, 6 billion hamburgers sold this week, or whatever it might be. That number just denotes a sense of, not just me, it's others here.
Yeah. It's why, I'm sure it's a common sales tactic. It's something we do. I'm revealing information here. This is possibly jeopardous. One of the things we'll do in proposals or when we're doing presentations to people is we will say most clients go for this option because everybody wants to be most people.
Yep.
I want to go with if most people have gone for that, that's probably the right one for me. But if I said very few people choose this one, this is the one, hardly anyone picks that one, you wouldn't want to do it. So most people choose that, which is what you said about McDonald's. This many hamburgers sold, oh, well, I want to be another one of those people because everyone else is doing it, then I should do it.
Yeah, well, even the same with social proof is to the degree that we are unsure, we rely on the actions of others. So, when you go to, you're at passport control, or you're at a till and there's a long queue, and then there's a cashier next to it, but no one's queuing there.
Yeah.
Everyone assumes, well, there must be a reason why.
Yeah.
Then someone goes, and then all the others go, oh, flipping it, I'll get across, and then it will even out, right?
Yeah.
But the reason why we don't at first is because I'm unsure. Now, however, if I'm arriving in the UK, I'm totally going to go to the shortest line because I'm familiar in my own country, whereas I'm less familiar in another country. So the degree to which we are uncertain, we rely on others. So yes, your leads are going to be uncertain, knowing what the most popular option is. However, a lead that knows you very well or is very proficient in web marketing and all of this stuff, they're going to want to know, okay, what's your recommendation here? What's the elite pathway or whatever? And that most people choose this now becomes a negative, actually. Because when you say that, it would denote sloppiness. So again, the same tactic can be good in one situation and bad in another based upon the relationship. Hence, if you think about, your partner, you've mentioned your girlfriend, you're not going to say, right, well, most people I date with choose for me to take them here. But that could work really well in a different scenario.
It definitely would not work well with her, I can tell you that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would not go for that. Geez, I'm just thinking of her response now. Yeah, yeah, she's Ukrainian. Would not go well. One thing I wanted to pick up on as well that you mentioned about visitors, about introducing them to people and speaking to them. One thing we do with visitors to our networking group is that we don't want to leave them alone. So if someone is speaking to a visitor and they've come for the first time, they've never been before, someone will talk to them. We drill it into all of the members. Don't just talk to them and then walk off and leave them on their own.
Someone else.
Introduce them to someone else. We call it pass the parcel.
Yeah.
So make sure you
pass the parcel is a great name.
And don't try and sell to them about what you do. As you were saying, it's not me. Ask them about themselves. Ask them what they do. Who would they like to speak to? Who would be a good contact for them? And then introduce them to that person. Give them a good experience of being there. So that's what we try to do.
Well, you've mentioned some good things there. So we could call what you're describing there is like social threading. You're weaving together a thread. So, this is a classic one. Is someone comes in and you talk to them, you go, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go and get some breakfast now, but let me introduce you to so-and-so before I do, whatever it might be. Really simple. That's a really great technique. I would also say that it's not all about them. Actually, the best way to engage someone is to find out what you and them have in common. So if I was at your networking group and you were the visitor, I wouldn't be going, well, who are you looking to meet today? And let me find someone. I'd be actually looking to go, oh, so tell me about what you do. Oh, yeah, I've done something like that too. I would actually look to build the common ground. Because common ground is what engages, because common ground is where are we already a we? And then all of a sudden we get engaged by virtue of what we have in common, because that's what we do. We engage over we. So if I can demonstrate we are already a we in a number of areas, instant engagement kicks in, and we all know what this is like. When you meet someone and I do that too. And then all of a sudden you feel it, click.
Yeah.
The you and the me clicks, we become a we, and now we're a little bubble. The analogy I use for this is you're walking down a street in a foreign country and you hear someone speak English. What do you do?
Well, I run away personally, but I know most people don't.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But
I keep
what
my
most
head
people
down.
of course do,
I don't want to, particularly if it's a Cockney. I don't want to. No.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't like.
Can we get some fish and chips? Yeah.
Actually, I love a Cockney. It's more Brits. It's more the Larry type. But Brits abroad, notwithstanding Brits abroad, what most people do is their head will crane to just go, oh, who said that?
Yeah.
Like it's an involuntary response. So commonality is so powerful. Hence, again, right, the website that adjusts itself to the search terms it's just demonstrating commonality quicker.
Yeah.
again, a very human thing that we can achieve digitally. Really simple. Yeah.
There is a fantastic clip on social media. I think it goes around TikTok every now and with Henry Cavill, who was Superman. And Henry Cavill, if you don't know, is a massive nerd. He builds.
I believe he is.
Builds his own computers. He plays Dungeons and Dragons. And there's a
Warhammer.
Warhammer,
well,
yes. Well, he's making a Warhammer TV series or film now. There's a clip where he's talking about Warhammer, and there's two, I think it's actresses that are in the shot, and they're bemused by all of this. The host is on the verge of taking the piss out of him for Warhammer, and then one of the other guests on it says, "Oh, you play Warhammer? What army are you running right now?" And he starts describing the army, and then there's almost an unspoken. They don't even finish sentences. It's like, "Oh, I'm running. Shall we? Yes, yeah, let's do that." And it's how quickly they connect, just because they're both into Warhammer, which you wouldn't normally get when you were on a chat show with other actors or musicians.
So, yeah, the more that the commonality happens within an uncommon space or an unexpected space, the more it connects us. Again, to the degree to which we are uncertain, we follow the actions of others. The degree to which commonality is unexpected, it becomes more potent. So if I'm walking down the street in Djibouti.
Where's Djibouti?
It's a country in Africa.
Okay.
And then someone says to me, "Oh, yeah. Hello, Scott." It's an incredible, degree of commonality.
Yeah.
I travel a lot, particularly in Eastern Europe, it seems. And I'll be in cities that no Brit I can imagine has a reason to be there. And then you hear a British voice and you're like, "Oh my goodness, why are you here?" You just can't help but ask, why are you here? So again, the degree to which the commonality is unexpected, it becomes all the more potent because it's imagine it, 10,000 BC. I'm a tribe and I meet someone now who's in my tribe, even though I'm miles away from my tribe, I immediately feel safe. It's just what it does. Yeah, really simple mechanisms. How can we then apply that to our website? Even the saying, "You're in the right place." If you're looking for X, you're in the right place.
Yeah.
Oh, I am looking for X. Oh, I'm glad I'm in the right place. Like really simple language formulations. I'm a bit of an Apple fanboy, although they certainly have lost a lot of their polish in recent years. But I've always appreciated the way that they have used human things in their marketing. When you update to the new version of iOS, it will say hello.
Yeah. And
that's been a long-standing Mac thing. The examples they use have always been friendly, human, everyday examples. They try to use the everyday stuff. And do you remember their Get a Mac advert? "Hi, I'm a Mac, I'm a PC."
With
they personified them.
David Mitchell and
Justin. They did the
Robert
UK
Webb
version
in the UK. Yeah, David Mitchell
did the
and Robert
UK
Webb.
version. Yeah, the American version was Justin Long. But again, just really humanizing it because actually that's how it works.
I'm a PC.
Yeah,
he's real nerdy. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to check them again. Actually, thank you for reminding me of the UK ones. And again, the fact that they did UK ones.
Yes.
Again, another layer of
because American ones wouldn't have landed as well if they'd done that here. Yeah.
Well, they landed, but they landed in a different way, in a British way that helped them expand in the British market. Yeah, really good.
Well,
in fact, just yesterday, an article came out from Esquire with Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, just talking about how important engagement is to him. And he was saying, it's really about not just telling them, but going and understanding the cultures of the nations where you're selling and doing business.
Well, even Apple, that's a perfect example as well about engaging and speaking to the customer on what it is they actually want. Because the iPod came out around the same time as, I think it was Microsoft or Samsung. Zune had an MP3 player.
Microsoft's Zune came later, but at the time there were a few other MP3 players. They were ugly things.
Yeah, but they were all on about the gigabytes, so the storage capacity and what it was, whereas the iPod was 10,000 songs in your pocket.
Yeah, amazing line. Yeah, it was such a good line, and it got right to the thing of don't sell the feature, sell the benefit.
Sell the benefits.
Yeah. I do a lot of training with this with people in engagement. Even today, I sent a proposal to a client, and with the outcomes, one of them was you will be less worried.
Nice.
Which is, better staff retention, and improve profits. and critically, less worry. You say better performance, and that looks good. This project isn't really being done for prestige. One of the fundamental things is they're worried about staff retention. This will just reduce your worry. And ultimately, that's what I'm buying here. Less worry.
That is what people want. It's like with us. We don't talk about websites because businesses don't want a website. They want what comes from it. They want the sales. They want the inquiries. They want the business. They want the new clients. That's what they want.
Yeah.
So the line I use is we don't build websites, we build businesses.
Yeah. I mean, and a frightfully simple concept that even 20 years ago, people were saying this, and 10 years ago, particularly, they were really emphasizing this of, you're not selling a website, you're selling a business outcome. But you're right, it still hasn't caught on. And again, the reason why it doesn't is because we're there talking about Rams, whatever it was, the removal
Rams,
company.
which I still don't know what that is.
Still don't know what it is. No. Yeah, and, we're there talking about the stuff that we care about because we're too deep in it because we need the fresh eyes. And we're now back at where we started, aren't we? Right? But we're so, we're talking about when you and me becomes a we, we're so in me, we don't even know what you is anymore. And then the way that we try to engage is we go, me, 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 me. Why don't you care about me, 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 me? And then we think we need to shout louder. We do what Brits do. If they don't understand you, speak slower and louder. Mange tu, Rodney, mange tu. Do you sell, voulez-vous beer? S'il vous plaise, beer.
Murky buckets.
Yeah. And that's what we do. And because we're so wrapped up in our own bottle, and actually you've got to get out. I stopped being a church minister 11 years ago, and flipping heck, I understood church far better, no longer being my job.
Yeah.
Because my job was to lead a church. It took me getting out of a church and having a non-religious job that made me realize, flipping heck, what actually real life is really like.
Oh, that's an interesting comment.
Oh yeah, definitely. Being a full-time church, you're high on your own supply. You're so in it that you don't see the wood for the trees anymore.
Does that mean if you went back, you'd be a lot better at it?
I hope I would be better at it, but I might be better at it in a way that doesn't fulfill the metrics that are important. So maybe I wouldn't be worried about how many people came along and all of that stuff, or how many people got baptized. Maybe I'd be thinking about different stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't be thinking it was as important as I thought it was. That's for sure.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you is that you do keynote talks. I was wondering,
I do. Yeah.
What sort of locations do you do those kind of stages, audiences, and how do you get those?
So I've been public speaking for a long time, and obviously I was a church minister, so I've been public speaking for 25 years. I have a lot of experience. I've spoken on every continent, almost, except Antarctica.
I was thinking Antarctica might be the one.
I came close. I had like a trip on a boat, and I was kind of like off the shore of New Zealand, and but it wasn't quite far enough.
Oh, gutted.
Yeah, gutted. 10 years ago, I had stopped being a church minister, and I applied to speak at a conference on a case study about Lego, and they said sure, and I got it. And then I wrote my book, and then I began reaching out to conferences and saying, I've got this book, could I speak at your event? And it was all digital because I used to run like a digital conference myself. So I managed to get speaking at those, and then it just slowly built up. And I don't do it as much, but now I typically will be a keynote speaker and get paid for kind of fair amount for being the keynote speaker at a conference and generally those aren't business conferences that you can attend. They're generally company conferences or association events, so normally they're not public events. And yeah, I do that, and it's nice, but it doesn't last. The effects aren't long lasting.
Do you mean the effects to your business or the adrenaline rush of doing it?
No, the benefit to the hero. Yeah, conferences are really ridiculous. So people pay a lot of money for a good name keynote speaker who you will forget 90% of what they said and you will apply even less. If, you apply minimal amounts. Having a coach on a regular basis, regular training, regular coaching is far more effective than keynotes, training programs, all of this stuff. Just consistent sharpening of the saw is far better.
It's like that famous quote, isn't it? People will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel.
Felt. Yeah, and so you have to recognize that you're going there to create a feeling ultimately, and your client is the conference organizer and making them look good. You kind of got all this stuff going on. So I don't like keynote speeches in the sense of they're all glitter and everything, but in terms of actual change, in terms of actually helping people become better, I far prefer coaching.
So coaching's the big thing for you?
Well, I say coaching even then, not coaching like, tell me, using the grow model or whatever. I just mean conversations with people where you're helping them get better. Let's work on this together. Tell me what you're thinking about. Let's do this. And that's what I did as a church minister. I was a pastor. I'd see people and I'd go around to their house for dinner and have coffees with them and be there for them in hard situations and get to know them when times are good and obviously do a lot of visiting and everything. But it was just those little micro conversations, and then you see them every week. So then it's just, how did that go? How's it going doing that? I am totally, that for me is where it's always been. Regularity of conversations around getting better or staying good.
It's like anything in life, isn't it? If you want to get good at it, you've got to practice, whether it's sport, whether it's writing, whether it's singing, whether it's going to the gym. You've got to do it regularly. There's no point doing it once and thinking, that's it, I've done it now, I'm going to be brilliant. That's it.
And you've got to then observe how you did, make adjustments, experiment, all of that stuff. Hence I just don't like days of training, because I just feel like, what's the point in this?
Interesting.
I find it really frustrating. Anyway, that's a different conversation for a different day.
It is. And would you believe we're out of time?
Yeah, I know, that went quick.
That went really quick, didn't it? So as a final point, anyone listening to this thinking, I would love to work with you, I'd love to find out more about you, I'd love to reach out and contact you, what's the best way for someone to get in touch?
Well, I would love, if you're listening to this and you want to, just find out more about engagement, I'd be delighted to connect. I'm a very human person, so reach out to me on LinkedIn. Scott A. Gould is my LinkedIn username. Just search for Scott Gould or Scott Gould Engagement. I'm online, scottgould.com. If you go on YouTube, Scott Gould Engagement, you'll get loads of videos and stuff where you could watch. But yeah, reach out to me. Scott@scottgould.com is my email, and I'd love to say hello. Flipping heck. Life's too short to not enjoy saying hello to people.
I love that. I will put the links for those below the podcast. So if you're watching on YouTube, it's in the description. If you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, Audible.
Whichever. I love Spotify.
Doesn't love Spotify. It's
I can spot a fly. I don't know why I spotted a fly.
I don't know why. Yeah. It said the old woman who lived in the shoe. So it's written below in the podcast. So scroll down and you can connect directly with Scott there. Scott, thank you very much for being a guest on the Engaging Marketeer.
Darren, thank you, and really appreciate being on a podcast with such a great name.